Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Harvard Business School online global event and global community. I'm Gwen Mdinaradze, the president and CEO of Speakers Alliance Canada, an international training and consulting firm based in Toronto. I also am the global chapter lead for this incredible community, and I'm very excited to be here today with Madeline. Today, I'm thrilled to start the event with the introduction to Madeline McNeely, whose work has inspired many in the field of leadership and organizational development, including myself. Madeline is the founder of Conditioning Leaders, is not only a coach and consultant, but also an instructor with Harvard's Division of Continuing Education. Her approach is deeply rooted in principles of justice, belonging, equity, inclusion, and diversity. Madeline was one of my former professors at Harvard Extension School, along with Harry Harding. Both are brilliant minds who taught us the course Nonprofit Leadership and Community Engagement. She's here to share her unique perspective on leadership, coaching, her experience, and the wisdom she's gained along the way. We will also explore how her certifications and methodologies help her create meaningful change for her clients. So let's dive in and get to know more about her remarkable journey and the impact she's making. Welcome, Madeline.
Oh, thank you for having me. Wonderful to be here.
To start, what does it mean to be an interdisciplinary leadership coach? Your practice is rooted in justice, belonging, equity, inclusion, and diversity. So tell us more about being an interdisciplinary leadership coach.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I have had a fairly unconventional career. I started out as a youth worker. I didn't actually know exactly how I wanted my career to go. I have a background in the performing arts, and I've always been fascinated and studied leadership. Really, my roots in leadership are begin with working with young people and teens and specifically. And over the years, the different parts of me have come together. And that even in college, I self-designed my major in the fields of gender studies, sociology, economics, anthropology. So blending, thinking about women in development, specifically in Africa. So I've always been an interdisciplinary thinker. And how that translates to my practice as a coach, as a consultant, as a facilitator, trainer, is that I bring in somatics, which maybe we'll talk a little bit more about, which is really studying what happens to the body under pressure. I bring in psychology, everything from positive psychology to understanding positive intelligence. There's a number of lineages in the psychology world. I'm trained in education and the best education practices. I'm fascinated by neuroscience and how we can build trust and what it means to use the body and the brain to support our leadership outcomes. And then the coaching work that I think is most profound is ontological coaching from Martin Heidegger and this idea of who we're being for our leaders, for the people that we influence. So somebody who has loved learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and so that really sort of blends well with this idea of what it means to be an interdisciplinary leader.
That's great. Madeline, your practice, as I mentioned, is rooted in justice, belonging, equity, inclusion, and diversity. What does this mean for you as a coach, consultant, facilitator, and trainer?
Yeah, the first thing I think about is understanding dynamics of power, and that anybody uh, has power, but it's situational and it changes. So being conscious of my power when I'm an educator. So tomorrow I'm teaching leadership coaching strategies on campus for 2 days. People come to Harvard because they want to know what's happening, and I don't always think of myself as being an important influencer, but yet I know I am. And so remembering my relationship to power, that's a huge piece of it. Thinking about how I can use all of my social identities for the liberation of the people that I'm influencing. So belonging, each of these has different distinctions: belonging, justice, equity, diversity. They all have slightly different ways of thinking about how we create cultures of inclusion. So I work with people on those distinctions, but really at the root of it is understanding our own relationship to power and how do we create the conditions for empowerment for those that we love, that we lead, that we care about.
As I mentioned, I was in your class this summer. Can you share a bit about what you teach at Harvard?
Yeah, so the class that Gwen is talking about is nonprofit leadership and community engagement. And it's designed for people that are interested in understanding the nonprofit sector, but particularly rooting ourselves in how do we more deeply engage community members, people that care about our nonprofits, people that care about our organizations. So we actually spend a bunch of time unpacking dynamics of power. We talk about articles that relate to justice, dynamics of oppression, racism. Harry and I just finished an article for Nonprofit Quarterly about centering belonging and justice in leadership. So we also ask students to think about a project or something in their lives that they're interested in. In the summer course, Gwen, that you took, it was 7 weeks. So we
Right.
had partners that we had you connect to help advance their community engagement projects. So there's a practicum aspect to our class. A lot of reflection. Do you want me to say more, or is that those enough headlines?
Right. And you mentioned you're teaching another course on campus, right? Are there like two courses you're
Yeah.
teaching at Harvard right now?
Yeah, so I started the coaching and in the Division of Continuing Education, the professional and executive development uh, part of that Division of Continuing Ed. I teach leadership coaching strategies. That started in about 2016, 2017. And then that's a part one class. And then the more advanced coaching class is executive coaching mastery session. And that's for people that are more seasoned coaches that have spent a lot of time cultivating their craft and really want to deepen their understanding of neuroscience, the body, just furthering their distinctions. And then I'm a part of the Women in Leadership. There's a course also.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I support as a coach the Women in Leadership practice as well, or
That's
course.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. I understand you're certified in several modalities.
Mhm.
Can you describe these and their significance?
Yeah. So I started coaching in 2003. So getting
Oh, wow.
certified as a coach was one of the things that I did to really distinguish. I was coaching already. There's a difference between consulting and coaching, and I was already doing that, but I wanted to really distinguish what it meant to be a coach. So that was the beginning of my practice. And then along the way, because I have a background in the performing arts and movement and dance, and I used to study yoga, I really wanted to figure out a way to codify understanding the role of the body in leadership. And so, leadership embodiment, Wendy Palmer, Tiffany Palmer are my teachers. I'm certified in that body of work, which really helps us understand what are our conditioned tendencies when we are stressed and anxious. The body responds. Energetically, we respond. So, helping people understand how to shift from being triggered in a triggered state to a centered state. And there's a 2-day course with all kinds of experiences that I weave into my coaching courses at Harvard and even into the class that you took. We teach the
Yeah.
centering practice and have that as a part of our leadership. So that's leadership embodiment. That's the first certification. The second is Conversational Intelligence by Judith Glazier. Judith Glazier says that trust is the glue that holds organizations together. And I love her work because she's fascinated with culture change. She's fascinated with trust. And her work is all about how do we use conversation to deepen trust and rapport with each other. She says to get to the next level of greatness depends on the quality of culture, which depends on the quality of relationships. And that depends on the quality of conversations. So her work is all about really rooting ourselves in distinctions that build trust, that help people go from I thinking to we thinking, sort of being we centric versus I centric as people who lead teams or even ourselves as leaders. We're in this together. My assistant, Lucy Ponciano, who helps, guide our work, reminds me all the time we are in this together. And that's some of what conversational intelligence is about. And then the last certification that I also love is also has the word intelligence in it, positive intelligence, Shirzad Shamin's work. And that's all about teams and individuals realizing their potential.
Mhm.
He has done a lot of research to describe how the meta part of ourselves, our judge, has 9 expressions. And so it's an assessment, very simple. It's a free assessment. You can go online and look up positive intelligence. And you can take what's called your saboteur assessment to understand what are the parts of us that sabotage, that get in our way. And you can also take an assessment that is good for a 24-hour period to learn sort of where you are and your potential around your positive intelligence. So those are ones that I rely on and that I'm sort of schooled in, but there's many, many, but those are the three
Mhm.
that shape my career and shape my practice.
That's great. So with that many certifications, you're also a somatic coach. What does
Yes.
it mean and how does it help your clients?
Yeah. So soma, the word in Greek for the body, somatic coach means that I help people think about what's happening literally with your body as you're thinking about your outcomes, your aspirations, your deepest values, all the things that we do as coaches. I also bring in the body into the conversation. Even in virtual relationships, I teach people centering practices. I have people really shift the way that they stand. One of the things that we say in this work is the way we sit and stand affects the way we think and speak. So something as small as crossing our arms and uncrossing our arms, or extending your palm open a little bit. Things that can help trigger us going from the part of the brain where if we're stressed and anxious gets more activated to the prefrontal cortex where big picture thinking happens, where our ability to collaborate and innovate. This is all part of what's going on physically, understanding some of the neurochemicals, oxytocin, testosterone, all the serotonin. So the studying the body really helps us say, wait a minute, actually, I affect people's biology. My tone of voice, my posture shapes how people feel when we're together, draws people in, has people say, yeah, I trust this person. I can say more. I can share my ideas without hear people talk about psychological safety a lot, Amy Edmondson's work. And so all of this is related. Our body can enhance and deepen psychological safety with our teams and with people that we collaborate with.
Wow, I love that. I'm gonna do more research on this to
Yeah.
learn more. Um, it looks like you have a very interesting life, and I wanna know what do you love most about your life?
What do I love most about my life? Okay, the first thing I have to say is being a mother. I'm an older mom, came to motherhood later. Hands down, being intentional about raising another human has been a huge gift. And I think one of the things that I love is also having clarity about what my values are. And really, in every aspect of my life, I've always been somebody who's valued balance over being extreme. I love people that are like virtuoso singers or, they have their craft and they're amazing at it. That's not been my path. My path has been more balanced in the spiritual domain, balanced in the physical domain, balanced in my work and, personal life. And so, really coming to appreciate that way of being and then how that shapes how I show up as a parent, how I show up for my clients. Uh, I've been, a solopreneur, had my own business and career for 30 years. And there's a lot of freedom that comes with that, being able to shape my schedule. I love that I get to do that. I don't always remember it, but some days I'm like, ah, but honestly, it's a huge privilege uh, to to have the opportunity to do what I love and really design and craft what I've loved to do, which is influence people and culture and inspire others.
Wow, that's great. And I love being an entrepreneur. I create
Yeah.
you have, flexibility to do your own schedule, and especially when you have family or other commitments, it's
Mhm.
very important,
Yeah.
especially for well-being and self-care, just to remember ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the leadership topic. From your experience, what is the most important quality a leader should have?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a few. One that I think I'll start with is this idea of know thyself. I think as leaders, we have to do the deep inner work to understand our deepest motivations, understand our shadow sides. Where do we trip up? None of us are fully evolved beings. We're all work in progress. And being able to see that part of us and have honest assessment of our strengths and our challenges is really important. So know thyself is, I think, hands down one of the most important. That's the first one when we talk about centering justice and belonging in our leadership, and that nonprofit quarterly article that I mentioned, Harry Harding and I. We've That's the first one. The second one you've heard me say has to do with Judith Glazer's work, which is around trust and understanding that everything happens through trust. The currency of trust, it shrinks and expands based on our actions, based on how we show up every day. And that's connected to authenticity. So I think authenticity is a key part of what it means to, be a leader and what matters most. Those are the ones that I would start with. I certainly can say more. Let me know if you want me to elaborate.
Yeah. So, um, with being a coach, an instructor, a consultant, you have a very successful career.
Mhm.
And what's one of the hardest lessons you've learned in your career?
Mm. I have learned that I'm not neutral. This goes back to power. This goes back to understanding my influence, that the power that I have. So I'm a white woman, I'm from the United States. My ancestors immigrated here generations ago. That I have a lot more power than sometimes I remember. And I work a lot on issues of social identities and really helping people understand, all the differences in the United States are, well, and all over the world. Our workplaces are multicultural, they're multiracial, they're multi-class. And one of the things that I've struggled with is my own internalized sexism. And so as a, young girl growing up, not my father, I'm the youngest of four. I love my dad. I have much reverence for my dad, but I didn't get the message as a young girl that I could do anything I want. That wasn't a gift he gave me as a father. And so I think about the ways that sexism has shaped my relationship to power, to leadership, and I've gotten into trouble. I've actually gotten fired from a partnership because I wasn't conscious of my own power and my own influence. And so that was a hard, humbling lesson and a really important one because it's made me even stronger and even more thoughtful as a leader, particularly in cross-racial relationships, in dynamics where I care about mentoring. I care about, I do a lot of mentoring of younger consultants and facilitators and trainers of color and bring people into projects. And so that consciousness has been really important. And I say all the time that trust is earned in drops, but lost in buckets.
Oh, wow.
And it took, an email. It was an email that I sent that had me lose that partnership. You could say, oh, come on, it was just an email, but a couple things that I said in it, the trust was lost right there. And it's really hard to earn trust back when we lose it.
Wow, I really appreciate your sharing this with our community. So,
Okay.
um, to go back to your coaching,
Mhm.
how would you describe your style as a coach?
Well, I'm very outcomes oriented. So when a client comes to me, a prospect comes to me, we have a process where I ask questions, I send a questionnaire, and I create a scope of service that has a vision statement, a set of outcomes, and success indicators or benchmarks. Because I want us to be able to track how do we know we're going to be successful?